Jon Hughes has been a successful real estate agent since 2012. He's also a sales manager for the Mike Wood team out in Reno, Nevada. He has recently started providing coaching to solo agents and real estate teams to help them grow their business and succeed. Jon has essentially taken what he has learned over these past several years as a realtor and sales manager and now uses that knowledge to help others. And since Jon and I share mutual clients who use both of our services, I thought you all may find it helpful to learn more about Jon's coaching services. But Jon, before we go into your services specifically, can you share a little bit about your backstory of how you became a coach following your real estate career?
So I'm still in real estate, still practicing, and I started in real estate in operations. So before I did anything in sales, I was in real estate for 4 years or so in operations and administrative positions with TC positions, lead management positions, before I even did a single sale. So I really have a background in that first, and then teaching agents once I started doing sales, and it was about teaching agents how to use the systems to do sales correctly, right? So just over the years and that I've been with the teams of teaching agents how to use system and use sales and script and dialers and make calls and that kind of thing, it just became a good transition, easy to really not just do it for the people on my teams, but to be able to do it for anyone who possibly needed it.
How did you find your first client for coaching?
I was asked. Yeah, so I was asked if someone would they wanted me to set up their systems that I was already currently using at the brokerage I was in, and they were a different brokerage. And so they wanted me to set up their systems and teach their agents from a non-employee side of the thing. So that was the first thing. And after that, I was like, well, that was easy. Let's just keep doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely crazy how much of an outside perspective will influence agents within a company rather than an in-house employee trying to coach, for sure. With all of the clients you worked with so far, what are some of the common challenges you see agents face that you are helping them overcome or teams face?
Time to build what they need to do is probably the biggest one. If they don't have the time to actually build the systems out the way they need to be that are best, most productive. And then the knowledge or the willingness to learn how to do it all is probably the second one. And then the third one then would be that they don't know what they don't know. So they haven't ever had anybody look at what they're doing and to see how they're doing it. And so that kind of an outside perspective, like you're saying, is something that people just value when they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, exactly. So, well, let's dive into it because I'm very curious, and I'm sure others are very curious. What the word coach can mean so many different things. So I'm curious to learn more of what you provide for your coaching clients.
So I'd say more these days it's more consultant than coach, right? On that, because it really comes down to it's not so much the coaching them on the standard things to do. It's consulting them on what they want how to do what they do better personally, right? Individually. So a lot of that is the same stuff like a coach would, but it really is what I do is much more customized to what they need and how they do their things than it is to just a standard way of a coaching program would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I work more on that side. I can share. So a lot of what I help people do is really just understand how to actually use their systems. So something like this is a basic training on there. You're familiar with with your cheat sheet, very similar concept, but this one's designed just for Follow Up Boss, but helping to get into a singular place, a way for their agents to know how to use their system, find the links that they're doing, and get in there as well. Then to know how to use the system is something I'm big about, right? And with agents, a lot of times unless they know exactly what to do, how to do it, they will just go about trying to figure things out on their own. And that's not really what I believe in. I want to teach and train agents on teams or individually to have a very set process of saying, this is what you need to do to use the system to the fullest effect and use it correctly the way it's designed. So
So
building
with
out, go ahead.
so I was going to say, with this flow chart you're showing,
Mhm.
how do you approach creating a flow chart like this? Do you have your recommendation that your clients follow, or do you work with them on what their expectations are and kind of creating different SOPs for each client?
Exactly. It's really different SOPs. So this is more like a basic framework that is, you can swap out the naming conventions and the actual individual steps of each of these, but it is, or how it looks, they might want to do it in a different way of view or different complexity or simplification. So this is just the one that I use. This is what I use for my teams and my follow-up boss team, and it can be is changed up to whatever they need it to be. And for me, it's not that important to match what I do. It really is a matter of, hey, this is how I do it. If you'd like to do something similar, then we can build something similar, exact, or completely different.
So at the top underneath, it's saying FUB lead flow chart. It says stay under 50 leads. Does that mean
Mm-hmm.
50 or less in the lead stage or in all of the stages combined?
So the way we do it is we do a team lead cap of 50 leads of team leads at any given time. And so it's team leads. It doesn't mean your sphere leads on that for our team. But we do want our team to maintain only up to 50 team leads to allow them to be focusing only on the active leads in the system and the ones that are urgent. And then we give them a mechanism. The watch pond right here actually is what we use to be able to allow them to move non-active leads out of their system, but not lose the opportunity. So we want them to stay under 50 to stay focused on the ones that are active in the system and not have thousands of leads in their database that they can never manage.
I like that box in the middle column where it says don't email or text a lead unless it's already claimed by you. That way you're not confusing the lead because as you say, oh, maybe I'll try to text or email the lead and then the lead gets confused because they're getting emailed by so many people. I
And
hadn't
this comes as
thought
part
that.
of our SOP lead rules, right?
Yeah.
For our ponds where they can prospect from. We don't want them just claiming leads out of the ponds just because, again, that will put them over their 50. So if they get a hold of a lead, they can claim it, and that's part of our SOP and our lead rules. And it just is just a reminder.
Something I forgot to ask at the beginning of our call, which is a common question people want to know if they should watch this or not. Do you work with agents and teams in the US and Canada or just the US?
Anywhere, U.S. and Canada. There are some issues in Canada, obviously, that are different, but most of what I do on the SOP and setup side is applicable across the board. Integrations vary, but most of this kind of style stuff can be done across the board.
So, with SOPs you create, how do you approach the teaching portion and adoption?
So you got to, yeah. So the team portion. So there again, the training, all of this kind of stuff, right? The agent training, the FLUB chart. This is a YLOPO and onboarding training that I've also used. But any of this stuff similar goes into a folder that is shared with the team or a team site that where it's housed on, and that's used to train the team and make sure and help them to learn everything, as well as an onboarding aspect. I'm big about steps to how to, you can tell how to do everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that way it's very clear for any of my admin team or my VAs or anybody who needs to utilize the systems to how to do it all. And so we do an offboarding and an onboarding as well, where it's just very simple, but it really tells you what you need to do from an admin side of how to make sure the agent is set up correctly within the team, and they have the training folder that we utilize that encourages everyone to have it. So when I'm building that with a consulting client, I am using my essential exact what I use, and then customizing that for their purposes. Or if they already have something that's started, I'll help them build that out and expand it into their own version.
So, since implementing these different SOPs, what types of progress or benefits do you see these add to the clients you consult beyond having the knowledge? How else has it helped them?
Less admin time is a big aspect of it. So being, in me and the data management side of things, spending time on tasks is a big delay, and it's not something you want to do. So being able to just have a standardized process of how to do things will alleviate a lot of your admin timeframes that need to be spent on it, as well as it makes it easy for the agents to start faster, to get up and moving quickly with inside the system and get to making phone calls and get to using the system quickly instead of trying to deal with it over months. You're trying to knock it down to days, really, and that way they can get up and running real quick, weeks at the latest. And then we combine a lot of this type of setup process, right, to make sure they have the right start with an accountability process to make sure that they're treating the leads correctly from an admin side of things. So that helps the admin. We use a lot of some stuff that you're familiar with, as you can see here. We use your action plans, and then we build in some accountability task automations with inside the action plans to hold the agents accountable when they're taking leads or when they receive leads, that they're making the phone calls and texts and emails that they need to in order to treat the lead correctly and make sure that they're working it properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I tried that before and I messed it up somehow, and so I'm glad you figured it out. I even got on a couple of calls with different people and they tried to help me, and eventually we got it figured out for one client, but I said never again. So that's great you figured it out.
It's very customized. There's no way to template this kind of thing because everyone has their different abilities. Some people don't like emails. Some people don't want to make more than one call a day, or everyone's got their different metrics. So by using these basics, it can be done. All you have to do is change out the timeframes, right? Talk times, change out calls, dates. It becomes easy, to figure out. Just depends, but each client has their own way. And so that's the kind of different thing that I try to do for them, is set up a framework that they can then adjust themselves and teach them how to do that as well. So they're not having to go back and keep hiring people. They have someone on staff, preferably, who knows how to do it, who I can teach how to do all this stuff.
Yeah, so you've got the SOPs for how to use their CRM and systems. You've got accountability. Do you provide any training for sales approaching calls once they do make their calls, and once someone does pick up the phone? Do you provide any training there for sales?
Yes, if I have a pretty well built out script aspect. If they do want some sales training, I can definitely help with that. That would be something that is not usually something that most people ask for, to be honest, because they don't want somebody stepping on their training that they do for their team, right? So most of the time what I'm helping people do is to get to maximize their database, right, versus just agent training. Because if they're really wanting to capture more deals, training the agent to do it their way is kind of the best way, in my opinion, to not have somebody else come in and try and overrun the way that the team lead or the owner wants their culture and their sales process to go. I tend to come in and help them see what they're missing, right? So a lot of that comes into helping them find the leads in their database that are active. This through the smart list, right? Using smart list heavily within your system. We use it very heavily on ours. We use these kind of activity automations here, where I was telling you about the watch pond. We set these up for all of our agents and anyone in similar one, that if somebody is active in the website, it would then either notify the agent or reassign it to them and notify them to make sure they're seeing the activity. And then we put that in front of their face, combined with accountability to make sure they're actually doing something about it, right? In order to cycle agent lead activity in front of the agents, so that way they see it and they can do something about it.
So it can be tricky to implement a lot of new workflows and standard operating procedures, and I'm sure you have to work in baby steps with your clients. What are some of the most, even if it's super small, what are some of the most impactful changes you've seen agents and teams implement, and as a result impact and help their business grow?
Role play, probably the number one thing, is the biggest one by far, is consistent, constant role play. And then using the systems you have to kind of tie into that role play. We just turned on Maverick and then this month, and that is a big aspect or an assistance to be able to have that AI role play aspect. We make sure I try and encourage I actually have all of my agents sign up for the Follow Boss communities and the Wailopo communities to be able to get onto their webinars and attach to any kind of role play opportunities that pop up in there. Well, role play is the biggest thing, because that it's not just learning what to say and being comfortable with making those phone calls. It's actually the engagement in the process of growing yourself that is a good indicator of someone who's going to be successful on a team. Right? If they're
Mhm.
engaged, active, trying to always do more and become better. So that's important for a team agent, and I would say that one thing for a team agent makes the most impact.
Yeah. Do you work with helping them do role play, or do you recommend that they sign up for Maverick for role play?
I would work with them if they wanted. Most of the time, team leaders that come to me are pretty good on the sales side of things, right?
Hmm.
So they've got their role play down. I have a lot of scripts, that on there we all do if we've been in this for a long time, and I have it on my team site to be able to for my agents to use, right, and bring out. But other teams that come out, most of the time they already have their way of sales role play and scripting set up correctly. It's usually the backside of the systems that they don't have, and that's
Hmm.
where I'll come in and I try not to step on their toes when it comes to how they sales coach their agents, right? I want to be that system side of things to help them understand how to duplicate their business via using a CRM properly and get that process out of the way. Because if they can make phone calls then and follow scripts, they'll be successful. And if you don't like role play, that's fine. Just follow the script and make 1,000 phone calls. It was just like role play. You'll get good at it.
But it's always better to practice with someone who's not a lead if they're open to it, for sure.
Yeah, get you rid of the spirit. Having the AI on Maverick is just super convenient. So I think that just makes it so easy and no fear because you're not doing it in front of a crowd or anyone. So it helps a lot of people who are nervous about speaking in front of others to do role play.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the AI coach and Maverick.
Yeah.
How, on that topic, how do you stay updated with the latest technologies available to real estate agents and applying it to your coaching? And on the flip side, how do you make sure it's not a shiny object?
Lots and lots of demos is how I usually I'm there. I'm in every systems community that I pay attention to is quite heavy. So all the Facebook communities, LinkedIn communities that are putting out anything for Sierra, Boomtown, Sync, you just get on them all. And because I've used them all over the years, I just, they're everywhere. And if you're involved in them and you're paying attention to it, for me, I actually have a set schedule on Fridays that every Friday I have 30 minutes where I go back through and I look and I research Fub for ideas or research Facebook for ideas. And that just allows me to stay on top, but that does require a lot of time. So if you're in sales, it takes a lot of time to pay attention to. And so I make it part of my weekly schedule actually to go in and see what's new, check out what's out there, get on some webinars, see and do several webinars, several demos, almost a week. There's usually a couple a week that I'll take a look at, and a couple of demos I'll do a month. And I'd say at some point you just have to stop and get good at what you're good at and use and chasing new tech is fun, but it's not always profitable and it's not always going to increase your volume when it comes to sales. It can take focus away, and too much change too quickly to a team is a bad thing. So definitely taking your time with building a tech stack is a smart thing.
Yeah, several weeks ago, I had actually posted in the Follow Up Boss Success community. Has anyone ever hired a content ingester? Because there's so much content and so little time. And following that, I actually did. I hired someone. I told them what's important to me. I'm picking out the webinars that I think will have something helpful, and I have them stay tuned and listen for what they think will be important and just do the bullet points. And that has been a huge time saver.
That's a great idea. I'll have to get to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a fun thing for me to do. It's one of my favorite things to do is just look at the tech. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoy that part of it, but it does take a lot of time.
It does. Can you think, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but can you think of a specific story from one of your clients who saw some sort of improvement after working with you?
Yeah. So just recently, I just had one who I helped her. I referred her to you actually to get her all her stuff set up on her because she had nothing going. She'd been using Fub for 2 years, had no action plans built, no smart list built, besides of what the generic stuff that FUB comes with. And she's in my office. I showed her our system. She has a very similar team component, so she uses Zillow as well as we do. So I built out. She wanted to duplicate our systems, and so I duplicated our systems where everything matched. Our smart list matched, our pawns matched, our automations matched, right? And day one, the next day after I did that, she started calling and boom, set up 2 appointments off a smart list that she had never used before, just because they pointed out what she was doing. That was just this week.
Wow.
And so brand new first day. And so I was like, you got to tell your team this, because that's what if you can show them that how that you can do it in day one of actually using that and pointing out, like, it's not that they wouldn't call it otherwise, but it told her who to call, and it worked. And it's that focus of that I like to have on the activity of leads, that I want agents and teams to realize that it's pay attention to what leads are doing, and not just making numbers of calls, but focus that activity via the smart list and the proper systems and the proper SOPs, right? To do things quickly, you have a lot more time to do things the right way. And it's a much more higher cost or dollar per hour activity that you get out of your time.
Mm-hmm. Because the real estate industry and the climate is always constantly changing, what future trends do you foresee happening in the real estate space that will then require updates and changes to how you approach coaching?
Yeah, AI. I mean, obviously that's going to be the biggest, because it's going to really make it easy to learn. I think is how I see the most coming out of it. It makes it very easy to ask a question and get an answer, and not have to spend so much time learning how to do a lot of the things that we used to always spend weeks or months learning how to do. And it becomes very easy. So I think that's going to be a big changer for a lot of people in the real estate space when it comes to systems and what this kind of stuff on there. It's going to make it a lot easier to bring in somebody from like a VA and have them spend a very short amount of time and learn and figure out how to use the system. So I think it's going to make agents better in the overall, as far as just having them utilize CRMs more. And I think that's going to become necessary. I think it's going to become, if you're not paying attention using a CRM, you're going to be behind the curve on just time. Things happen so fast. And if you're not really responsive to them and using these systems that way, then that's something that I think has changed quite a bit over the last 5 years, and I think will become even more important. Not so much that speed to that first call, but speed to give them the first point of value that you possibly can. And I think the systems in AI is going to really make that happen so much faster than we can possibly respond ourselves.
Yeah. On the topic of AI, unrelated to real estate in our conversation, just yesterday, one of my biggest weaknesses in my different skill set as a human being is communicating with other people and carrying on a conversation and intentionally listening. And so at first I was thinking, I wonder if there's a communications coach I can hire. And then I thought, wait, let me open up ChatGPT on my phone. And you can talk there. They have the version where you can talk to it. And I said, can you help me role play through different conversations I might have with a stranger and getting to know them? And then can you role play like follow-up questions? And it said, yes. So I haven't had time to do it because I had to get back to work, but it's like, that's a game changer. I'm sure it wouldn't ever, at least right now, it wouldn't replace a communications coach if that even exists, but that would be a huge starting point, a huge help for someone like me who always struggles with that.
And it's going to transition through every area of real estate marketing. What you can do with AI videos and telling an AI to build something that do this, do that, do that. I want a video that does this, that, right? Allows you to do some stuff they just couldn't imagine to be even possible just 2 years ago. And so I think that's going to be the speed of how fast things can be done on such a high level is just going to increase. So people should just bite the bullet and get used to it and learn it and use it, because those are just going to be slow compared to how things work.
Yeah, for sure. Embrace innovation and embrace technology for sure.
Right.
So if people had questions and wanted to learn more about your consulting and coaching, where's the best place for them to go?
best place for them to go is going to be just here. So I will go ahead and leave. So all content that I kind of showed along on there, you can get in that by scanning that or hitting that website for the bonus content. And then you can get my direct contact info and all my account in like through that QR code by scanning those. The bonus content is just going to be the general stuff. This isn't like custom stuff. It is very generic, but it allows anyone to really take it and utilize the basic ideas of agent training and SOP through there. And if they want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me on directly through that, download my info and schedule a link and see all about me that way.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing your time and sharing more about your consulting services. And like I mentioned, Jon and I have mutual clients. So if you're wondering whether or not this fits into your tech stack, if you're a client of Key Technology, it will, and he'll work alongside of the setup you have. So thank you, Jon, for sharing more information about your services.
Appreciate